Stick right in there.
Oh, the question was about, well, they can tear back. About what, Anjou or something. What Rhett uses, right? As a gravy. I don't know. It depends upon what it's made up of. But you all can fill in the blanks here and just try to work toward this end.
Is it, I know that some of the people at the hospitals have nerves. I think they're getting around the microwave. A lot of people get around microwaves. Can you take, can you take you scoop some mashed potatoes and take your little gravy in a little cup and just microwave it last time?
Well, why not take a raw potato?
Because mashed potatoes loses their nutrition
When they sit.
But they could take a baked potato and bake it in 5 minutes. Do you have a baked
Microwave you have access to?
Take it with you and all the little things to go with it.
Now, they could take a little container with some gravy. With the gravy from the other experience, if it's been prepared, if the routine made it so that it could have been prepared.
So far, for which
Do you have?
Well, you have gravy every day, don't you?
Do you have?
Except on Sundays, except on Sundays when you have Spanish rice.
It could be a gravy from the day.
That's what I was going to say. You could save enough from the day before, and then you'd always be behind, which wouldn't make a difference.
And you'll have to tell them about the difference between the barbecue chicken gravy. Yes, because you add onions.
Now, we don't want this going into effect until you get all the kinks out.
Yes.
So we don't want everybody confused.
Don't want it a mess. Don't want it a mess. It's only after it's worked out.
People getting upset. There's enough boogers going on already.
Huh? Yes, we've already given you the instructions you can do that.
Yeah, we've already told them so that he can start it and it's working because he gets home late at night.
And it goes an awful long period without anything worth, anything to hold his nutrition value up.
And he comes home at 7 or shortly after he consumes, and then he goes down at what time? 10, which is awfully close to
Was even
after
closer.
consuming. And anybody else you might can work it out easily.
And Lily comes home and consumes a salad at 1 o'clock in the morning. It goes down.
Well, salad isn't as bad.
But now he's going to have rice. I mean, starts with that.
Well, I don't know. Why is he consuming salad at night?
Well, I guess that's the word.
Does he have enough off period at his task that he could be shuttled home? You might, because a lot of places, waiters and waitresses have an hour to goof off in here, or sometimes a couple of hours. Like if they had cars, they even scoot out of there and come back later. I don't know, it depends upon the management and how they want them to spend their time, whether it's folding napkins or let them go someplace. Snow's getting bigger, Amarillo, we're just telling you.
When she gets off work?
When does Aunt Dottie go to work? In the afternoon?
Why couldn't she consume her HB in the afternoon and then have her salad so she'd go to work with the full time?
She's better for you.
Oh, I thought she did.
And Jody does too, but salad later on in the evening.
And you can't do that at work.
I don't understand.
Well, we're sorry that there ones that retreat right now are snowbound. They're going to have to go back to Amarillo today. We realize more and more that I think we've realized it for a long time, but it just gets on our mind more and more, and we feel like we've been given instruction to share it with you more clearly. The fact that the chief and the ones who are older than we know how strict the rules are in the next level. And in order to have useful tools, in other words, in order for the members of the next level to be serviceable to the next level, then the rules have to be very strict. They can't function well if they have certain areas that they do okay in and certain areas that they do less than okay in, and very few areas that they excel in, and so forth. And we know that we can't, in all fairness to you, pass up an opportunity to assist you as individuals more thoroughly in areas that still are abominable in the eyes of the scale of practices of the next level, whether it's anger or sensuality or lethargy, sleepiness, showing that importance of conduct is weak. So what we're going to do, what we've been instructed to do to help you in this way, is to give individuals an opportunity to examine themselves as to their weak areas, the areas that they know that once in a while they stumble and fall in. Before I go on, we want to say we have told you that what you don't lick will one time have to be licked. And what we can't stand the thought of is you're accepting, well, I've got this weakness, and I know it's going to have to be licked sometime. But everybody else has their own weakness, and I'm willing to accept the fact that this will have to be licked sometime. Well, the lesson, the way it will have to finally be licked, any of these areas of your weakness, the way it will have to finally be licked will be severe to you, because it is an area, or it will appear to be severe to you, because of the effort that it will take to lick something that you have permitted, even occasionally, or have hidden from yourselves and your teachers, kind of even not even wanting to think about the fact that I will have to lick these areas sometime down the line. Now, in other words, the effort that it would take to lick them can be accomplished now. So why not do that effort now than later? Why not be of more service? Why not be a better tool to the next level upon your return than have to have another task where that same weakness will have to be a part of that task in order for you to conquer it? Now, let's say that as individuals, you examine yourself as to the areas that you have kind of closed your eyes to, that you occasionally fall in, and let yourself spend that wrong energy, whether it's in anger or sarcasm or defensiveness or sensuality or lethargy, just laziness or sleepiness. And if you want to lick it now instead of later, Lynx can, with the help of our helpers, devise for you a formula as individuals to lick it. Now, it will be a very serious consideration on your part as to whether or not you really want to lick it, because the formula we will devise for you will not be an easy formula, and it would require the open admission to yourself and to your teachers, and probably even some of your classmates, because of the circumstance, would know that this is an area that you have not conquered, and you want to conquer it, and you're willing to go to any measures that it takes to conquer it. Now, let's say, let's use sleepiness, or let's use sensuality as an area. And let's say that once in a while you give in to sensuality. And instead of doing anything about it, what happens is you try to put it behind your mind, just try to block it out and think that it didn't happen. Or you go in a downer, or even lower forces could make you even feel better by having done it. Said, well, at least I got it over with. Now I can think about what I'm doing, because it was plaguing me so. But let's say that that was an area that you were willing to admit to yourself that you had to lick down the line, and you chose to lick it now. And you were just using this as a possible example. And you, let's say you wrote to Lynx and put on the note to Lynx, a report for Lynx task. And you write to Lynx and say, I have this, and I want to lick it now. I want you to do whatever it takes to help me lick it now. And then let's say that the formula that was given to us about a particular individual might be a number of possibilities, or a number of things that they must do. Some of them could apply to all of you, since we're talking about the area of sensuality. Ways that you don't even know sensuality might enter in. Let's say, like if you went into a BC to bathe, all of you should have your clothes off the absolute minimum time that you can have your clothes off. In other words, let's say you wouldn't take your clothes off, or even partially more than necessary for the task. Let's say you were shaving, so you just took the top of your jumpsuit off, but you left the t-shirt on, and the rest, because your vehicle's still covered. And then you don't take the rest of your clothing off until you're ready to hop right in the shower. And then when you get out of the shower, you get dry, you get the clothes right back on. You don't go in front of the mirror and brush your teeth and pretend to not be aware of the fact that there's your nude vehicle in front of the mirror. This is just an example of how you can almost unconsciously slip into little degrees of opening the door of sensuality. And let's say that if sensuality was a problem with you, Lynx might, even as the formula given to you, say, or we'll assign a couple of monitors to you, and they'll go with you, and they'll be with you in the BC during your bath, or anytime you go to the VC. They'll watch you to see if there is any time that you might show any signs of weakening in this area. And they will immediately, if they saw the sign, bring it to your attention helpfully. Your booger would really begin to growl and say, oh, that means they would be pointing the finger at me. And that's right, it does. That's what it means. Because in order for you to make such a request for help means you want the finger pointed at you. It means that you want no degree of permissiveness on your part in the areas of your weakness. If you were, let's say, sleepy, and you recognized that sleep was a hard thing to deal with when you were meditating or you were even just sitting, and you told Lynx about it, and Lynx said, okay, well, sign so-and-so and so-and-so to keep an eye on you. And if they ever see you in a sleepy state, they'll come say, I recognize it. And you could, defensiveness would be out of the question. What you would have to do is say, I'm glad you caught it, because I was even blinded to it for a moment, and I'm not going to permit it. Now let's say that you were blinded to the degree that it occurred, and you fell asleep, or you gave in to sensuality at a time when you had no monitor. No one was there to help you or to catch you before it occurred. You had no physical monitor, no monitor of a classmate. And then you would have to, if you're going to ask for help, you would have to make an absolute promise as a vow that you would immediately report such failure, such slipping, and ask for more severe measures to help you conquer it.
If you do make a promise like that, you've got to realize that you're making a promise not to your teachers, but to the Lord of this garden.
To the Lord of the heavens.
That's right. Yes, Lord of the heavens. In other words, you don't, this is why we're saying this, because once you promise something, He doesn't forget. And that promise means that you want to be, you want to overcome it. And so we want you to think about it before you write it, and tell us that you want any means to overcome it, to be given to you. Because once you promise, you've got to keep your promise. Otherwise, you've got to face the consequences. And this is the reason I'm saying this.
Because T is saying that those who are above us, older than us, and the chief, would not be lenient upon dishonesty, would not be lenient if you made a promise and chose not to keep it. Or if you said that you wanted to flick it and then proved that you really didn't. In other words, it's time for the maturity that we're beginning to recognize developing in you, that for that maturity to have a little bit more depth and determination to conquer the areas that are weakened. Let's say that that sarcasm or a little bitterness or a little comments that seem to be sharp are recognized, and you know that that's something you deal with, and someone is assigned to you to watch you in that area. You want to, and then that individual says, I hear that sharpness. I hear the tone, a feeling, though the words are trying to cover it. What I feel is sharp and anger. And if the individual who has that difficulty tries to defend it, all they're really doing is letting the booger come in to state his case, that he really doesn't want to lick it. He really doesn't want to lick it.
And if you've got to decide, am I going to continue to let that booger come into that degree so that he is using my mouth to say, I don't want to lick this, or am I going to have my mind come in enough to say, goodness, kid, I can't bear, I don't have that tongue. Thank you for showing me that sharpness.
I don't know if I interrupted them before you had just say maybe. And that was that if you promise, if you write to us and ask us to give you means to correct these things, and then if you, in your privacy, you do resort to means that are against what you promised that you wouldn't allow to happen, then you would write a note saying to me that you had done it. You do it immediately because you are bringing to the surface, exposing it so that it will not have a chance to get into the back of your mind and become justified. You see what I'm saying? Because that is total honesty.
The whole purpose of this is to help you not to put it off, to help you get to the measures that it takes to get a hold on it. It doesn't mean that any of you will get to the point where you will not have the battle with it. But some of you still almost permit the battle because there is a little pleasure found in the battle. Even though you may not let the battle go to the degree of giving in to the battle. But you've got to want to hate the battle. You've got to hate it so much that you're willing to say, help me. In other words, you're going to ask us to ask for the measures to help you at any length to conquer the areas of your weakness, if you choose to work on them in an accelerated rate. And like T said, and like I said a moment ago, that if there is a time when you do slip in these areas and no one is aware of it, then in your asking us to ask for help, it should include in there the promise to the next level that I will expose to you anytime that I have slipped in this area, because at that time I know I need more severe measures because I want it thinking. You're going to feel so much better. There's nothing worse than carrying back in the back of your mind certain areas of weakness that you have adjusted to. There's nothing more hideous, more poison to your system and to your mind than letting certain permissiveness continue to linger, kind of hiding it there, wishing it weren't there. But since it is, then I won't look at it. I'll just hide it. The thing is, we're trying to save you from not we. The next level is trying to save you from having to do this at a later time. They're trying to say you can do it now if you want to. And it's going to really be quite an experience for you to deal with whether or not you want to. Because it will take a serious examination and a commitment to it, or a decision not to commit yourself to it, that you'd rather deal with it at another time.
If you are dealing with sensuality and you never get into it, then this doesn't apply. In other words,
because the battles will continue.
Right. It's only if you weaken and you give into it that we would resort to measures like that. Because we know that as long as you're on this garden, that you're probably will be attacked in that way. But if you don't get into it, then you gain strength. And it's being used to strengthen you. But if you are actually participating in it, which we know some are still doing, and this is what we were talking about. We would resort to that. But if you feel like when you're in your privacy, like the BC is the most prominent place that you would have trouble with, because you're always by yourself.
Aren't you busy at work?
Right, and so therefore you would, if you felt like you would, if you never participate in getting rid of that feeling, then you wouldn't need someone to go with you to this, just because you have that feeling when you go there. You know what we're saying? We're talking about ones who actually get in and participate. If you fight off sleepiness, but you never fall asleep, you wouldn't need anybody to watch you, to monitor you in the physical world. You see what we're saying? If you
don't fall off to sleep.
If you have a feeling of having a quick response to somebody, but then you fight it off.
And don't do it.
And you don't do it, you wouldn't have to have a mood.
But let's say that you don't fall off to sleep, but you let yourself get so drowsy that you can't work. Then you're if I were you, I would consider it an area that I must straighten up in. I must conquer, because to me, let's say that you don't give in to sensuality, but you might give in to a little caressing. To me, that's sensuality. You know, it's to a degree of kind of overlooking the fact that you're still having a degree of sensuous pleasure and aware that it's happening, even though you want to kind of hide it even from yourself. You know, being here, don't know about you, but you know now that you're from the next level. We know we're from the next level. In our eyes, there is no honor. We feel no honor. And that doesn't mean we're not honored to be on a task, but we feel no elevation. In a sense that many times I can't help but look at my task as I must have needed these areas of exposure and test and difficulty in order to be strengthened. And I have got to become strong in those ways, or I wouldn't be on this task. And you should have the same feeling that instead of, it's so nice to feel that I'm a member of the next level, you should feel that I wouldn't be on a task that required so much strength and difficulty if I did not need to develop strength in my mind in control and the areas that are presented by this task. Now, it's true that if I display and exercise the increased effort of control in the areas of this task, I have accomplished my task and am prepared for more. But you should look at what your task is as what your mind must accomplish. Therefore, if you look at it that way, you're not willing to have certain areas of it put off. You're not willing to say, well, I don't really want to look at that because I'm going to go back to the next level anyhow, and I've got enough to deal with now. You know, so I'll conquer these areas some other time when I don't have this to deal with. If the degree of difficulty and severity of conquering will be the same, whether it's done now or it's done at another time.
Might be more difficult.
It might be more.
Are we scared? No surgery will be performed.
That's right. No surgery will perform. Not going to cut your arms off, cut your tongues out. You might wish that. When your booger tries to
sever
work.
your brain, so you have to
Lobotomy.
put holes behind your eyebrows. Your brain.
This is the thing that we as your teachers in our own degree of lessons have asked for, the severity of helping us to do absolutely as perfect as possible every aspect of our own effort and task that this task requires. And we want no reservations. And we hope that you will choose to do the same as individuals. That's it.
Question came up.
Yes, Jan Nody asked if it would be all right in the note to links, to have links point them out. That would open the door too much to putting us in the wrong position. This has to be what you have been willing to recognize. And what you have recognized and you have chosen not to have the remedy played. Okay?
Now, if you worry about eating too many peanut butter sandwiches, and I'm not cracking a joke. If you worry about that, then that's really not difficult. A difficult enough problem to have a moment.
But if it's snuck, if it's dishonesty,
Right. If you snuck in and said, nobody's watching me, I'm going to get a peanut butter sandwich, then it's not the peanut butter sandwich that we're concerned with.
it's the dishonesty.
It's the dishonesty that we're concerned
That is a severe problem.
But if you do it because you feel like your vehicle needs it,
And
you
it's
write a
procedure
note.
to do it.
You write a note saying I had an extra peanut butter sandwich, then you're being perfectly honest.
Well, there's a procedure to do it. But if you're doing something outside of procedure that you can justify in your own mind, that's a degree of dishonesty. That is a serious problem. Because willingly doing things outside of procedure and finding justification for it is what makes for listeners. Yes, but that doesn't take the place of what we're talking about. It's if you're talking about things that you're fighting off mentally, that you're going to shut the door to more and not have to deal with mentally, and you're recognizing in that way, and you're making a commitment to yourself to have faster and stronger locks on your brain as far as blocks or your booger are concerned. But we're talking about actually giving in to weaknesses to degrees that it's obvious it's giving in. And choosing to say, I have recognized that I am participating occasionally in these areas that I know are improper conduct to the next level, and I want what it takes to stop those areas.
See the difference? So what you did do was okay, but it wouldn't take the same time.
This
Right.
meeting.
So you have a monitor. There's no way the monitor could. It's been on things. The monitor to know that you're thinking. You don't want anyone trying to tune into your thoughts. So,
Okay?
okay. You have questions?
Well, as soon as you know what you're doing, then you...
Realize your promise that you're going to make, and realize who you're going to make that promise to. That's the important.
Let's go over it once again, because if you choose to write a note, then in your note you're going to state the area that you have recognized that you slip in, whether it's dishonesty, sensuality, sharp tongue, sleepiness, whatever, bad responses, whatever those areas are that you know are kind of moodiness, okay, and accompanying that open recognition, then you must, in addition to saying I have recognized it, you must ask for us to ask for the formula or a formula to give you added help in conquering that area. Plus, you're going to state in that note that you promise the next level that when you fail in that area, you will absolutely permit no secrecy, no hiddenness, no just wishing it weren't there and wishing it would go away and forgetting about it. That you will immediately notify links and request that links ask for even more severe measures to assist in conquering those areas.
Now, those notes will come directly to links. They won't go to satellite 3.
They'll just
They'll go to satellite 3, but
Yes.
you will not need them.
They'll be titled the links task.
And then you all just bring them up when people come. We'll protect your confidence. In other words, we won't. It won't be. Of course, when we can't protect it to the point that we can't do anything about it. If we do something about it, somebody will know.
In a sense, you have to be willing to not care about confidence.
Right.
And you're more interested in conquering it than
Because
having
if we give you a bad partner, then everybody will know that you have that partner. So you might
or
as well.
someone.
I mean, we're exposing everything,
That's right.
and you don't want to care. The main thing is you do. It will show that you have an awful lot of strength, and that you have made a promise to the Lord of heaven. And that, in a sense, is good. You see what I'm saying? In other words, your classmates might say, oh, so-and-so's having trouble with sensuality because he has to have a backbone, or she has to have a backbone. But if the classmates will look at it in this way, that they are really strong, that so-and-so is really strong to be able to make a commitment to the Lord
That's right.
in that way and to want to overcome it. It shows that they really have grown to have a lot of strength, take a lot of strength.
To be willing to admit it and ask for the remedy at any cost, because the cost is exposure. The cost is the effort that it takes to do it, no matter what.
In a sense, I think we ought to not even allow the thought to come in that so-and-so's dealing with it,
No.
but to send out the good thought to them. Goodness, I'm really proud of them that they are willing to go this way in order to overcome it.
That's right.
And
Willing
that
to
good
go to
thought
this
will give
degree
them strength.
to lick it.
Good thought will give them strength.
Place we're looking to come in and applying to bill
From last week?
from last week.
Yeah.
Well, I know my booker, and I know how he's gonna.
Sure.
He's gonna say, well, you haven't done that for
That's right.
2 weeks. So how do you determine what?
Well, then if I were you, I'd write the note. If I chose to want to lick it thoroughly, I would write the note and say, my area of weakness is such and such. To my knowledge, it has been X since I yielded to it. But I want you to know when I last yielded to it. And because I want it exposed. And because I don't want a cycle to come around again, or an aspect or something that will open the door, and I would yield again. So it's like part of the exposure. Can you see that?
You know, the members at the next level who are helping you, who are monitoring you all through this task, of course they go through us, as we told you before, but they, through your desire, I'll see if I can word this right, maybe you can help me once you realize what I'm talking about. Once you totally desire to get rid of anything like we have asked you to do today, they will help you. But they would not do it until you ask for it, because that's the way it is. Now, this is a big step. You remember way back when we were in campground, we said, will you trust us? Will you trust us totally and lose your mind and let us begin to teach you how to think right? You remember that? And you were willing to trust us, even though you were very much asleep way back then. And no harm has come to any of you. And some of you left the trip, you know, that was your choice. You still have the freedom to do it. Now we're going to, now the next level would not have even begun to give you those lessons if you had not sincerely wanted the lessons. You know what I'm saying? In your innocence, you said, oh, yes, I'm willing to. But you don't realize how hard it was for us to get you up to that place where you would try to lose your own mind and your own way of thinking.
And for that willingness to be consistent and to be sincere.
That was the hardest nut to crack for us. The next level had to give us all kinds of little ways to explain it to you, so you would not think that we were trying to program you as robots and destroy your way of thinking and so on like that. So getting back to asking this, they would not help you prior to that because they didn't know that you really wanted to get rid of it. In other words, if you still want to look at or allow the lower forces to come in every so often because it's been X number of days since you allowed it to, and the little cycle that occurs, then that's liking that cycle, being satisfied with that cycle. But if you had done something one time, and immediately you said, my heavens, please, I don't know what happened to me, but such and such happened, and I don't want it to happen again. I cannot justify it in my mind, and I'm suffering so from it, I don't want it to happen again. So please, can't you help me? If you did that, which so far nobody has done, then you would have received help sooner. You see what I'm saying? Now we are presenting it to you. If you really want to get rid of whatever it is that is your main battle, you sincerely want it, then you make a promise to the Lord. And if you understand what that means? You won't sacrifice. But to break a promise to the Lord means one thing, that you can't keep a promise. And He never forgets. Never forgets a promise. And He totally expects you to keep that promise. And if you go back on it, out of weakness, because you have allowed the lower forces to come in, then you have to face the fact that the Lord knows you can't keep a promise. You can justify it in your mind and say, oh, is that all it is? But that is. Do you know that Adam was cast out of the garden because he broke a promise to the Lord? And he was acting in according to some scriptures, he was an angel of the Lord. And he suffered tremendously because he could no longer participate as a member of the next level. And he kept praying to the Lord, forgive me, Lord, I didn't mean to do this. And the Lord said, I'm sorry, you broke your promise to me. And now you have, it'll be 5,500 years before I will allow you back into my garden. And you will have to suffer the consequences of the broken promise.
The recovery was 5,500 years.
Now, I don't know if he's still doing that, but hopefully he isn't, because that was way back then. But
We're not saying that the facts are accurate. We're saying the lesson is
the
accurate.
lesson is what we're concerned with. Now, let's say you promise that the promise that we're talking about is that you will never give in to sensuality. The promise we're asking you to give to the Lord is that you will let Him know immediately when you weaken. Do you understand that? In whatever your weakness is. Because He knows He is not He is not a God of not knowing. He knows what this is on this earth. And He knows what you're dealing with. But He also knows that you have the strength to keep that kind of promise to Him of what He would be asking you to do. So think about it.
Or making the offer. Because what He's doing is making you a very kind and generous offer. And that is to let something now that would be extreme solution to you to carry back in, and that you would have to lift eventually anyhow. And the difficulty of lifting would never be less, more than likely greater.
I will say this, and maybe it might be a little bit too strong, but I believe that if you're still participating in sensuality ever so often, that you would never be able to be in the presence of Jesus until you had conquered it.
Or other things of that same degree.
Because He would not allow you in His presence. Because of the vibrations that it carries with it. And He doesn't let vibrations like that come into His presence. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go to the next level. But Jesus isn't every place in the next level. He is in a place. And we want all of you to be able to go to
Anywhere.
and go anywhere in the heavens and to be with Jesus. So this is why we have been very concerned. Now, sensuality has many, many forms. Sensuality has the form of moodiness. If you go on a downer for days, you might as well be participating in actual sex. If you
Because you're letting those forces come in and you're spending it. You're displaying it. You're not fighting it off.
Everybody
You're
know
giving
that
in.
you're letting everybody know that you're having this problem, and it affects the vibrations of everybody around you. I think you all know that. If you say something to somebody in a sarcastic way, or in a curt way, or a sharp way, you change the vibrations of everybody around you. That's a form of sex.
Because you've let it come out, you have participated in it. You've lowered the vibrations.
about all the things that we're talking about overcoming are the things that will prevent you from sitting in the presence of Jesus.
Deceit, dishonesty,
Right.
the same sort of thing.
They all have a vibration with it that is very, very distasteful to you. And we want you all to be able to walk in with your head high, sit down and say, look at me. I've conquered all these things, or I think I have. And but I know one thing, if you go and sit down, you know that you have. So you don't have to gauge. But that feeling is
And
good feeling.
the least we could hope that you would want was an absolute, total exposure of everything and a choice of any degree of remedy. Can you see that? Because that's like saying, I know who the doctors are, and I know I have these ailments, and I'm not willing to live with one of them. So do what it takes to help me put out the effort for the needed cure.
I'd like to let you all in on something, and if you want to stop me, go ahead.
I'm not going to stop you when I don't know what you're going to do.
Well, you can stop me if you get suggestions. We have, ever since we have worked together, we have been together like foster twins. We never went anywhere without the other, which we did not should. But when we came up here, we had the opportunity to have separate quarters. And we both began to like it much too much. The separateness, even though we still worked together. But as soon as we realized that we liked that separateness, then we stopped it. Now that's what we're talking about. We don't want to allow anything that is not right, and we felt like it wasn't right. So we moved our quarters back where we are. We still have time that we can meditate. We can still be separate, but we do not have separate quarters.
Well, it's if we recognized that it was a little bit more comfortable, let's say, to not be disturbed by the other ones blowing their nose or snoring or getting up when you're trying to rest or anything. That's all just to us little degrees of way that the forces could use to keep us less working as one instrument. And the moment that it clarified, and it clarified pretty strongly, we were able to recognize, I recognize in myself very strongly that the forces would like for me to be more separate. And and the last thing I want is for them to have an opportunity. So that ended right there.
In other words, the separateness in my side, I had never been alone. Never in my life had I ever been alone. And I realized that I didn't have to think about anybody but myself. I could get up and turn on the light and read if I wanted to, and I wouldn't have to worry about disturbing somebody.
She's not talking about not thinking about the class, not thinking about her work.
But I
She's
mean,
talking about
when I was in my quarters. In other words, I could, it was a freedom that I had never had. And I began to like it so much that I could feel that if it was ever disrupted in any way, that I was affected. And I knew that was not right. And Doe went through the same thing in his home. And that's when we realized it had to be stopped. It doesn't mean that you will always have a boxing twin with you in the ministry, but you will never be alone.
and you should never want to be alone. Yes, it's like there's danger to it. Goodness, I can recognize so much more clearly now how Satan would try to work on my mind in seemingly positive ways in order to create little separate way of thinking. And I see it as severe danger. And I'm glad that it's passed and was nipped because it was the potential there was terrible in my eyes.
Now, we could have kept it the way that we had it, but we didn't want it. We wanted everything exposed. And this is why we are presenting this to you. We hope that you will want to see it. This wasn't very tough. I mean, it wasn't backed up at the same time until we want to give up. But really and truly, what you all have to give up really is that time. It's only that the habit of the vehicle may think that it's impossible to do. But remember, you're asking for somebody who can do just about anything. And you're asking for help in this way. And remember how it was with you all just giving your minds to the next level, getting rid of those old ways of thinking, and allowing the new ways of thinking come in. That wasn't that difficult. But it sure was hard for us to get around to doing it. And so therefore, it's very hard for us to get around to doing the next two. And we're hoping that you will accept it as another lesson and work on it. And sure, I don't want to say, I want you to think about it. The question, I don't know if you heard it earlier, whether or not you should do it, did you say right away? We want you to sincerely think about it and realize who you're making a promise to.
Don't take it lightly.
Don't take it lightly.
Or just do it automatically.
Because you think an elephant has a good memory. Lord never forgets.
Amen.
And he doesn't forget that. In other words, he feels like a promise to him. If you break it, it's like you might as well hit him in the face.
It is for your sake that he does not forgive you. That is, because forgiveness has to be earned by display of conquering. That's forgiveness means nothing if what you're asking to be forgiven for has not been the conquering of has not been demonstrated.